Neville Goddard, Freedom for All, Chapter 2, The Name of God. It cannot be stated too often that consciousness is the one and only reality. For this is the truth that sets man free. What is that? What does that look like? Consciousness is the one and only reality. Right here, all it is, I am God. Consciousness, right there, all it is. That's your self-concept, that's your expression, that's your life right there. It cannot be stated too often that consciousness is the one and only reality. Let's consider this whole thing consciousness. For this is the truth that sets man free. This is the foundation upon which the whole structure of biblical literature rests. The stories of the Bible are all mystical revelations written in an Eastern symbolism, which reveals to the intuitive the secret of creation and the formula of escape. Pretty real. The Bible is man's attempt to express in words the cause and manner of creation. Man discovered that his consciousness was the cause or creator of his world. So he proceeded to tell the story of creation in a series of symbolical stories known to us today as the Bible. How about the beginning of that sentence? Man discovered that his consciousness was the cause or creator of his world. His consciousness, his I amness. So he proceeded to tell the story of creation in a series of symbolical stories known to us today as the Bible. Is it just a coincidence that man somehow came across this? Did he stumble? Was it an accident? Was there some big explosion? I think not. And we cross over, and Neville had not experienced the promise, the beginning of it, till 1959, I believe. So he's already somewhat crossing into that territory right here, just by that one sentence. And getting into the promise is very, very wonderful. It's going to be very wonderful, the stuff we're going to cover later. And it's all this preamble, this pre-promise information is super valuable, especially when we understand it this way. When we cross over into the promise, it's going to go into the deep end really fast, which is fun. But right here, I mean, there's so much. The Bible is man's attempt to express in words the cause and manner of creation. Man discovered that his consciousness was the cause or creator of his world. So he proceeded to tell the story of creation in a series of symbolical stories known to us today as the Bible. To understand this greatest of books, you need a little intelligence and much intuition. Intelligence enough to enable you to read the book, and intuition enough to interpret and understand what you read. Just reading between the lines, getting the gist. You may ask why the Bible was written symbolically. Why was it written? Why was it not written in a clear, simple style so that all who read it might understand it? To these questions, I reply that all men speak symbolically to that part of the world which differs from their own. The language of the West is clear to us of the West, but it is symbolic to the East and vice versa. An example of this can be found in the Easterner's instruction, "If thine hand offend thee, cut it off." He speaks of the hand, not as the hand of the body, but as any form of expression, and thereby he warns you to turn from that expression in your world, which is offensive to you. At the same time, the man of the West would unintentionally mislead the man of the East by saying, this bank is on the rocks. Let's go back to the hand example. If thine hand offend thee, cut it off. He speaks of the hand not as the hand of the body, but as any form of expression. What is a form of expression? A form of expression is one of your self-concepts. This is a form of expression. This is a form of expression. This is. All these are forms of expression of I am. If thine hand offend thee, cut it off, He speaks of the hand not as a hand of the body, but as any form of expression. And thereby he warns you to turn from that expression. In your world, let's say this is an expression that offends you. You're single, you're not married, you want to be happily in love, and you want to have a reality where this is so. You turn from that expression in your world, which is offensive to you. You kill, you make alive. At the same time, the man of the West would unintentionally mislead the man of the East by saying this bank is on the rocks. For the expression on the rocks to the Westerner is equivalent to bankruptcy, while a rock to the Easterner is a symbol of faith and security. I will liken him unto a wise man which built his house upon a rock, and the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. To really understand the message of the Bible, you must bear in mind that it was written by the Eastern mind, and therefore cannot be taken literally to those of the West. Biologically, there is no difference between the East and the West. How do you get an East and a West when we're all consciousness? Biologically, there is no difference between the East and the West. Love and hate are the same. Hunger and thirst are the same. Ambition and desire are the same. But the technique of expression is vastly different. The first thing you must discover if you would unlock the secret of the Bible is the meaning of the symbolic name of the Creator, which is known to all as Jehovah. This word Jehovah is composed of the 4 Hebrew letters Yod, He, Vav, He. The whole secret of creation is concealed within this name. The first letter, Yod, Jod, J-O-D, I could be mispronouncing everything here, but that's okay. The first letter, Yod, represents the absolute state or consciousness unconditioned. The absolute state or consciousness unconditioned is right there. God, I am all that is. That's the first letter of Jehovah, Yod He Vav He. The first letter Yod represents the absolute state or consciousness unconditioned, right there. The sense of undefined awareness, that all-inclusiveness out of which all creation or conditioned states of consciousness, which are these, your self-concepts, conditioned states of consciousness come. That all-inclusive out of which all creation or conditioned states of consciousness come, they come from that unconditioned state of consciousness. Yod. In the terminology of today, Yod is I am, or unconditioned consciousness. The second letter, He, Yod He, represents the only begotten Son, a desire, an imaginary state. It symbolizes an idea, a defined subjective state or clarified mental picture. Represents the only begotten Son, a desire, an imaginary state. Remember, within you is the Father and the Mother, the Father and the Mother. The Father here represented by the positive symbol in electrical terminology, and the negative symbol is the Mother in electrical terminology, positive and negative, Father, Mother. Within you is your Father and your Mother. I and my Father are one. My Father is greater than I. But within you is the Father who gives birth to your idea of your desire, whatever that might be. And then you give birth by that conception within you. When you impress your consciousness, you give birth to the Son. This is where you're in a reality, in an expression that you don't want to be in anymore. You're single, you're not married, you're not happy. You want to be happily married and in love. With desire, you give that impression to your consciousness, which gives birth to that Son, which is the expression of your desire. Hey, let me make sure I got us on the same spot. Excuse me. The second letter, Hey, represents the only begotten Son, right? A desire, an imaginary state. It symbolizes an idea, a defined subjective state or clarified mental picture. These are Hey, Yod, Hey, okay? The third letter, Vav, VAU, symbolizes the act of unifying or joining the conceiver, the consciousness desiring to be, the consciousness desiring to the conception. Hey, the third letter vowel symbolizes the act of unifying or joining the conceiver, yod, the consciousness desiring to the conception, hey, the state desired, so that the conceiver and the conception become one. The conceiver and the conception become one, and that becomes the birth of. Fixing a mental state, consciously defining yourself as the state desired, I am that I am. Impressing upon yourself the fact that you are now that which you imagined or conceived as your objective is the function of vow. It nails or joins the consciousness desiring to the thing desired. It nails or joins the consciousness desiring to the thing desired. The cementing or joining process is accomplished subjectively by feeling the reality of that which is not yet objectified. What's objectified is here, your new expression. Subjective is here where you impress your consciousness. Your subjective is in your sleep, in your unconscious state. That is your consciousness. Don't misunderstand this point. You're impressing your consciousness. This is an overall point, but it's your subconscious. It's the subjective reality that is the reality of you making the movement here in imagination. That's your subjective reality. When it becomes objective, that means it's in 3D. It's an expression now. Repeating the sentence, the cementing or joining process is accomplished subjectively by feeling the reality of that which is not yet objectified. You're going into your sleep with that feeling. The fourth letter, hey, represents the objectifying of this subjective agreement. The objectifying of this subjective agreement. The Yod-He vow makes man or the manifested world in the image and likeness of itself, the subjective conscious state. So the function of the final He is to objectively bear witness to the subjective state Yod-He vow. How wonderfully simple. Seemingly. If it wasn't for this, I don't know if I could keep that stitched together. It's very it bounces, but we can see it, we can see it here, unconditioned consciousness, yod, and then hey, and vow, and then hey, the whole thing. It really gives it, it parcels it into places. I don't know about your mind, but my mind kind of, to understand this process, kind of needs these little divisions at first. Conditioned consciousness continually objectifies itself on the screen of space. Conditioned consciousness is all of these. This one was conditioned from this one. This is consciousness. This is conditioned consciousness. This is unconditioned consciousness. I am is unconditioned. Conditioned is when desire meets subjectivity, and subjectivity becomes objectivity. Subjective becomes objective. A desire that's conceived by the mother and father within you gives birth to that which is the new expression. The world is the image and likeness of the subjective conscious states which created it. The world is the image and likeness of the subjective conscious state which created it. The visible world of itself can do nothing. It only bears record of its creator, the subjective state. It is the visible Son, He, bearing witness of the invisible Father, Son, and Mother, Yod-He vow. Father, Son, Mother. Father, which is also in you, Son, Mother. A holy trinity, which can only be seen when made visible as man or manifestation. Isn't that so simple? Seemingly. I mean, we see it in our 3D constantly. Mother, Father, Son, Child, if you will. Your unconditioned consciousness, Yod, is your I am, which visualizes or images a desirable state, Hey, and then becomes conscious of being the state imaged by feeling and believing itself to be the imagined state. The conscious union between you who desire and that which you desire to be is made possible through the vow, or your capacity to feel and believe. Believing is simply living in the feeling of actually being the state imagined. Believing is simply living in the feeling of actually being the state imagined, by assuming the consciousness of being the state desired. Believing is simply living in the feeling of actually being the state imagined. If you're here and you want to be here, believing is simply living in the feeling of actually being in the state imagined, by assuming the consciousness of being in the state desired. The consciousness is here. You assume the consciousness of this state. Then you become that because you give birth to that with your own inner mother and father. They conceive and give birth. The subjective state symbolized as Yod He Vow then objectifies itself as He, thereby completing the mystery of the Creator's name and nature. Yod He Vow He, Jehovah. Yod is to be aware. He is to be aware of something. Vow is to be aware as, or to be aware of being that which you were only aware of. The second He is your visible, objectified world, which is made in the image and likeness of Yod He Vow. The birth of the new expression is the second He, because it's Yod He Vow He that creates. The second He is your visible, objectified world, which is made in the image and likeness of Yod He Vow, or that which you are aware of being. And God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. Let us, Yod He Vow, make the objective manifestation He in our image, the image of the subjective state. The world is the objectified likeness of the subjective conscious state in which consciousness abides. This understanding that consciousness is the one and only reality is the foundation of the Bible. This is pretty heavy right here. This understanding that consciousness is the one and only reality is the foundation of the Bible. Unconditioned consciousness, conditioned consciousness, putting together, having a desire in this conditioned state, you then put that together, give birth to that, which creates the new expression. Yod He Vow He. This is a continual. This understanding that consciousness is the one and only reality is the foundation of the Bible. The stories of the Bible are attempts to reveal in symbolic language this secret of creation, as well as to show man the one formula of escape from all of his own creations. Whoa. That word escape would go really well with freedom, wouldn't it? This is the true meaning of the name Jehovah, the name by which all things are made and without which there is nothing made that is made. First you are aware, then you become aware of something, then you become aware of that which you were aware of, then you behold objectively that which you are aware of being. Let's repeat that final sentence of this chapter, which is profound. First you are aware, okay? Then you become aware of something. Then you become aware as that which you were aware of. Then you behold objectively that which you are aware of being. First you're aware, then you become aware of something. Let's say you're single, not married, not happy with that situation, you want to have a desire for something else. First you're aware, then you're aware of something. Then you become aware as that which you were aware of. You become aware of that which you were aware of. So then you become aware here and impress your consciousness that you're aware of, I am married, I am in love, I am happily in a relationship, I am. That is, you become aware of that which you were aware of. Then you behold objectively that which you are aware of being. You were aware of being it, now you are aware of being it. The tense is a very, very important piece in this last sentence. First you are aware, then you become aware of something, then you become aware of that which you were aware of, then you behold objectively that which you are aware of being. Now we're playing with time again. To be were aware of something means you are aware of something. Time plays in here because if you're in your current conditioned state and you want to be in a different conditioned state, you have to impress your consciousnness, but you have to do it in the present moment. There is no other moment. But that means you were. It's the other technique of Neville's where he says, or I think it was his father in the dream with his grandfather, his father, and I think maybe himself. And I'm paraphrasing like crazy here, but I remember when he looked at the empty lot and said, I remember when this was an empty lot because now it is a huge hotel with swimming pools and beachfront access, yada, yada, yada. I remember when I was single and not married. I remember when I was single and not married, but now I'm happily married and I have 2 kids. Even though literally, physically, you're right here, that's where you were aware of something. But to be in the I remember when technique, and I know I'm pushing forward here, but what the heck, let's have some fun. If you are going to be in the were, you have to be in the are. For you to be, I remember when anything, I remember when I was single, you're taking and assuming that you're here. You're challenging the assumption. You're going on the assumption, because this is a law of assumption. You're taking and you're becoming the assumption that you were there. But even though you might be going to bed here tonight, you're taking the assumption and impressing your consciousness with that assumption that you are here. So to be are here, you have to be were here. So you're playing with time. I remember when. Very, very valid use of this awareness that we've just pried open here. First you are aware, then you become aware of something, then you become aware of that which you were aware of, then you behold objectively that which you are aware of being. Oh man, good stuff. Freedom for All, Chapter 2, the name of God, Jehovah, Yod-He, Vav-He. Did we ever think it meant that? Okay, see you in the next chapter.